Let's call the organizational meeting of the Columbus Board of Education to order, and I'll ask the treasurer to call the roll.
Mr. Baker?
Present.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Present.
Ms. Gibbs?
Here.
Ms. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Peretti?
Here.
Ms. Reyes?
Here.
There's a quorum.
Thank you very much, and let's all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance in unison. Thank you, and Happy New Year. So the first order of business for the organizational meeting is to appoint a president pro tem who will preside prior to the election of officers. And so I'll open the floor for nominations.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I would like to nominate our president, Mr. Gary Baker, for pro tem.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Hearing no other nominations. Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Baker? You have
Yes.
to cast your vote for, this will be a voice vote by name, not yes and no.
That's right.
Since you have a nomination on the floor. Mr. Baker?
Baker.
Mr. Brown?
Baker.
Mr. Cole?
Baker.
Ms. Gibbs?
Baker.
Ms. Hudson?
Baker.
Mr. Peretti?
Baker.
And Ms. Reyes?
Baker.
Okay, Mr. Baker, you are duly elected as president pro tem.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. And as President Pro Tem, I will let you all know we do have two meetings this evening. This is our organizational meeting, which should be very brief, and then we will also have a regular meeting immediately following the organizational meeting. So having said that, the organizational meeting has very few components. We will elect board leadership for 2017. We will then take up the board calendar for the year, after which we will take up the evaluation schedule for board direct reports. Having said that, the President Pro Tem will now accept a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and
Second.
second. Moved and seconded. Hearing no discussion, Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Baker?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you very much. Now, the President Pro Tem will accept nominations for the office of President.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pro Tem, I would like to nominate Gary Baker as president.
Thank you very much.
Second.
Any other nominations for the office of President? I will now entertain a motion to close nominations for the office of President.
Second.
So moved.
Or so moved, excuse me.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Gibbs? All right. We have a motion on the floor, Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
That motion carried, and your nominations are now closed.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Treasurer, we will take the vote on office of President.
And this roll call is by name, please. Ms. Gibbs?
Baker.
Ms. Hudson?
Baker.
Mr. Peretti?
Baker.
Ms. Reyes?
Baker.
President Pro Tem Baker?
Baker?
Mr. Brown?
No. I don't know if there's another way to
Abstain?
abstain.
Mr. Cole?
Baker.
Okay, Mr. Baker, President Pro Tem Baker, you have been duly elected as president of the Board of Education for 2017.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Now, I will ask Board Member Gibbs to honor me by swearing me in. We'll go to the podium.
raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I,
I,
and say your last name.
Gary Baker,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as President of the Columbus Board of Education
as President of the Columbus Board of Education
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and in accordance
and in accordance
with the laws now in effect
with the laws now in effect
and hereafter
and hereafter
to be enacted.
to be enacted.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And at this time, I will call for nominations for Vice President. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Reyes.
I'd like to nominate Michael Cole.
Are there any other nominations for the office of Vice President? Hearing none, is there a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Ms. Hudson?
Cole.
This is to close nominations.
Oh, yes.
Yes, no? Yes. Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
President Baker? Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs? Nominations are closed.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. And now we will vote for the office of Vice President.
Mr. Peretti?
Mr. Cole?
Thank you. Ms. Reyes?
Cole.
President Baker?
Cole.
Mr. Brown?
Abstain.
Mr. Cole?
Cole.
Ms. Gibbs?
Cole.
Ms. Hudson?
Cole.
Mr. Cole, you have been duly elected Vice President of the Board of Education for 2017.
Congratulations. And call on the General Counsel to swear in Mr. Cole.
Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Michael Cole,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge my duties as Vice President
discharge my duties as Vice President
of the Columbus Board of Education
of the Columbus Board of Education
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability,
and in accordance with the laws
and in accordance with the laws
now in effect and hereafter to be enacted.
now in effect and hereafter to be enacted.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And before we go on to considering the calendar, if the board will allow me just a brief point of personal privilege. I would like to thank my colleagues for their support as I continue to serve as president of the Board of Education. I am humbled by your confidence and truly honored by the opportunity to serve the students, families, employees, and partners of Columbus City Schools in this capacity. I've often said that there's no better instrument for democracy than the locally elected school board, and as we begin another exciting year, I want to also take the time to thank my colleagues and their families for their commitment to our school district and its governance. And it seems especially appropriate during January, which is School Board Recognition Month. As I reflect on the remarkable progress our district has made in recent years, I strongly believe that we are on the right path in pursuit of our vision of being a world-class model of public education that prepares members of our communities to reach their full potential. This board and its direct reports agree that a true spirit of success is only possible when we support academic achievement, continuous improvement, civic stewardship, and lifelong learning, collaboratively and responsively govern with integrity, demonstrate compassion, respect, trust, and love to each other and those we serve, and value community engagement and empowerment, as well as equity and diversity. It is my hope that we will continue to embody this spirit of success as we continue in service to our students, families, and community partners in 2017, and as always, district success is dependent upon the efforts of our amazing employees and volunteers. For your efforts in 2016, I salute you, and I thank you in advance for the dedication and commitment I know you will display in 2017. I pledge to continue serving you and our public with integrity in the pursuit of our mission. Each student is highly educated, prepared for leadership and service, and empowered as a citizen in a global community. Thank you once again for your support and service as leaders in our community. And Mr. Vice President, have you any brief words you'd like to offer?
Just very briefly, I thank each and every one of you for your vote of confidence. I thank this community for giving me the opportunity yet another year to serve. I look forward to making, again, considerable gains in the year to come and ideally the years to come. I just thank you, and I look forward to our work ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, now we will contemplate the 2017 meeting calendar. The next meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Tuesday, January 24th at 4:30 p.m. at the Columbus Afrocentric Early College campus. It will be held immediately prior to the State of the District event scheduled for that same evening. If you haven't already registered, please plan to do so soon. Moving forward, regular business meetings will be held on the first and third Tuesday of each month. All meetings will be held at 5:30 p.m. in the assembly room of the Columbus Education Center, 270 East State Street, unless otherwise noted. If necessary, the board will hold an additional business meeting in June. The meeting will be scheduled for Friday, June 30th, 2017. The board will not hold regular business meetings during the month of July unless otherwise noted. So now the chair will entertain a motion that we adopt the 2017 meeting calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Hearing no discussion. Oh, Ms. Gibbs.
Just a quick question. Just a quick question on this calendar. Does it account for the election days? And for the, if you can just, I don't have the election for November date right offhand, but.
Mr. Superintendent?
We're scheduled to meet Tuesday, November 7th. I just want to clarify. That is election day. I think we need to. We didn't meet on election day this year. Somehow it didn't fall, but I know that. Because it was the first. Yeah, so it went through the 8th. So I think we should consider in further review whether or not we hold that. We know our schools close on election day, and so I offer that we reconsider that date and time so that we have full participation from all of our staff in the great exercise of democracy.
Very good. So what I would suggest is that we go ahead and adopt the calendar as it's been presented, but that we ask the administration to come back to us specifically as it pertains to election day. Mr. Superintendent, are you open to doing that?
I think that's a great idea. In fact, we actually have 5 Tuesdays that month, so if we go with the 2-week schedule, we could meet on the 31st of October if that's not beggar's night. So.
Very good.
So we should adopt it, we didn't amend it.
I think we should adopt it as it is. Or, Mr. Superintendent, are you comfortable now with suggesting to us dates in November, or do you want to come back?
Could I check if that's all right? I
Okay.
just want to make sure we don't have
Okay.
to adopt and then re-adopt it. So.
Very good. All right. So we'll go ahead and move forward with adoption of the calendar, knowing that you'll be coming back to us with a recommendation. All right. So motion and second and discussion, and hearing nothing further, Mr. Treasurer, please.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you very much. Now the board will consider a resolution to adopt evaluation schedule for superintendent, treasurer, and internal auditor. Whereas the Board of Education is required to determine a schedule for the annual evaluation for the superintendent, CEO, treasurer, CFO, and internal auditor, CAE, pursuant to bylaw 0154D. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the schedule for conducting said annual evaluations as follows. The evaluation of the superintendent CEO shall be completed no later than February 28th. The evaluation of the treasurer CFO shall be completed no later than July 31st. The evaluation of the internal auditor CAE shall be completed no later than May 31st. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Moved and?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I've-
Yes, Mr. Peretti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm glad that we're setting this now, but as we have been moving forward with sort of tweaking the way that we monitor and evaluate, I would like this to be a subject that we look at our policies as we move forward so that we have a good way to really keep on this annually and how it all feeds into our finance process and our monitoring. And it's just one of those areas that I think that we need to have a little bit more discussion in the future, but it's something that I'm looking forward to hoping we can accomplish.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Peretti. Yes, Ms. Gibbs?
Just a question for clarity. Board Member Peretti, when you say more clarity in terms, could you explain
So-
that a little bit better?
In a perfect world, based on the way that this set, as we get into January and February, we start to set our finance, the finances for the year. It would be my goal in the future as we set goals and those work plans and objectives within them, that they all sort of fall into cadence with our direct reports, how we evaluate them and monitor them. If there's a way that we can find a way to streamline some of these things so that everything's sort of falling in cadence together, because they all naturally do sort of work together in a sort of way. I think as we set our goals with our direct reports, we monitor them on those goals. Those goals and those work plans and objectives in those feed into our finance process. So in a way, they're all sort of linked together. And I feel like they're sort of, on a time sort of basis, I think we could find a way in the future, hopefully, to sort of align that so we can see the next year coming, be able to set our goals for our district and our direct reports. Those goals would feed into our finance process. We would monitor those goals and objectives that our direct reports have. That would be essentially monitoring and the evaluation piece to a certain degree. It would feed in together.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Gibbs?
Yeah, I'm trying, okay. I'm just
I
trying
think
to
that's
understand.
probably why it needs more conversation, I think, on how we sort of look at all this. But I think that, you know, as we move forward, we need to get on a cadence of this, and it does all sort of flow together. And it's just something that we as a board have to have a discussion about and talk about it, because there's going to be some things sometimes where dates always don't work exactly and clean the way you want. People come and go, et cetera. But I think it's something that that merits us taking a look at.
Okay, thank you for explaining that, because I want to understand, because of our 3 direct reports, our treasurer definitely manages our finances, but our superintendent manages our academic achievement. And so I could understand how finances maybe play a role as we talk about compensation or money, but finance isn't necessarily the driver as academic achievement and overall management of the district. And for our internal auditor, she is not necessarily bound by finances at all, other than making sure we're all accountable and they're auditable, and we make sure that we are staying on top of our compliance. So while feeding into the finance part, I understand the regular cadence of all of it may or may not always.
They share things, so if we were, as a board, to say that we had a goal to expand early childhood, there would definitely be a financial component. As we set that goal, and as we have been doing, there would be a financial component to that academic programming. So it does share. It's not always perfectly overlaps, but there is a lot of things that sort of share those pieces, especially the finances and how we monitor. But it just deserves more conversation, that's all.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. And are we prepared to vote on that particular item, Mr. Treasurer?
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you very much. And I have a few announcements prior to calling for adjournment. We will plan to announce committee assignments later this month, as we did last year. Also, a reminder that we will hold a retreat. The board will retreat on February 28th, location to be determined. And if there are no other announcements for the organizational meeting, the chair will now entertain a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Hearing no discussion. Mr. Treasurer?
President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
That motion carried.
That's wrong.
Thank you. We stand adjourned. And now, unless anyone needs a break, let's call our regular business meeting to order. And Mr. Treasurer, please call the roll.
President Baker?
Present.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Vice President Cole?
Here.
Ms. Gibbs? Ms. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Peretti?
Here.
Ms. Reyes? You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Now, let me just briefly review the agenda that we have before us. We will take public comment if we have any this evening. I haven't seen any yet. We will then hear from our superintendent, after which we'll hear from our treasurer, after which we may hear from our internal auditor. We will then contemplate our consent agenda, after which we will hear announcements. There is no executive session planned for the end of this meeting. So having said that, the chair will now entertain a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved and
Second.
moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you very much, Mr. Treasurer. And you will note that there were two pieces of legislation that were pulled from our agenda this evening, the Blackboard legislation and discovery tours. So let's then move on to hear from our superintendent.
Thank you, and congratulations, President Baker, Vice President Cole, and then members of the board, and Happy New Year to everyone. Hope you had a relaxing, wonderful holiday season and took some time to rest and recharge, or in Board Member Brown's case, mop. So I'm sure want to assure you it didn't waste any time here. We've only been back in session for 5 days, but I have a number of things to share with you. First, related to our diversity dialogue. Yesterday was a very busy day. Alicia Gillison, Cheryl Ward, Jimmy Beal, and I held our final diversity dialogue at Columbus Downtown High School. And the theme for the meeting was social change. We had a community representative from the Columbus Police Department who made a presentation to the students and staff on the collective impact of positive social change. And then each building team discussed issues and concerns and collaboratively developed plans to address positive social change in their school communities. And they're even working on measurements to demonstrate that there's an effect size from their intervention or their activities. Also yesterday, we had bond rating presentations to Standards & Poor and Moody's, and we were thankful that President Baker and Board Member Hudson participated. I asked if Stan Bohorik, our Treasurer CFO, would kind of give the board a general overview of those presentations and the purpose thereof.
Certainly. President Baker, members of the board, we did these presentations to the two rating agencies and invited them here to listen to those presentations and also do a tour of downtown high school, primarily to put our best foot forward in the preparation for the issuance of the $75 million in bonds that is part of the $125 million that was approved in November. And we had not visited directly with them for some time. previous refundings that we had done, we did a telephone update with the rating agencies. The individuals that cover us had not met Dr. Good nor myself, so it was good for them to meet us face to face. It was good to see how well we work together, at least the two of you and the two of us worked together there in the meeting, and to see the interaction and the commitment that the board and the administration have to running the district and achieving the excellence that we had. We have had an excellent story to tell. We passed what I kept referring to in those meetings as the trifecta, an operating, permanent improvement, and bond issue. And most importantly, that it passed by over 60%, which was a phenomenal turnaround in a very short period of time. Dr. Good and the board members went through all the accomplishments that we've achieved in the past several years and told the story very well. The focus of the presentations, quite frankly, probably 85 to 90% of it was all about program, which is important. And I think I tried it briefly, if you can use briefly and my name in the same sentence, go over the finances. And I think that the proof of the pudding in our presentation was when we asked those representatives of Standard & Poor's and Moody's if they had any further questions at the end of the presentation. Their answer was, no, that was good. You addressed our questions and concerns. So we are looking forward to the ratings that should be out here within a week, and I will let you all know how that comes out. We have I fully expect to be confirmed AA2 where we are, or AA where we are. We're hopeful to get a stable, if not positive outlook from Moody's instead of the negative outlook that they have placed on us at the last hearing. So I think that went excellent, and I appreciate everyone's input. We had a lot of help from our underwriter and municipal advisor as well. So it was an excellent presentation and a great full day of activities.
Thank you. It really was a pleasure and a privilege, really, to boast the achievements of the district, of the board that's governed those accomplishments, and of the 9,000 faculty and staff that have made that possible, and obviously our community reaching their hands in. And we did have a good story to tell, and it was kind of fun to be able to share those achievements. So speaking of financials, you should know that Executive Director Scott Gooding and his staff have begun putting together our district budget. A comprehensive work plan has been put into place, and we're already having meetings and tight timelines to help district staff make this budget flow more smoothly. Since we've been through this several times, we keep tweaking and taking it to a more granular level. And this year may be a little bit more challenging because this year, later this month, the state's two-year budget will be introduced, and this is the first step in a very long process of policymaking by the state that doesn't end until the end of June. But the reports, as you've heard and as we've heard at the State House, is we expect funding to be flat at best, if not, in fact, with some reductions, and it's likely those reductions may come in the area of education. And we know from the past few months' state tax receipts that they haven't come in as high as what was estimated. And so this can mean some belt tightening for us, and we're prepared for that. And we're very fortunate that Dr. Eric Roush, our government relations legislative liaison, continues to monitor this activity and also provide information to legislators and policymakers so that they understand the implications of any changes to that funding. On to achievements. You should know that based on the recent assessments, about a third of our students in third grade have already met the promotion requirement. They're ready to go on to fourth already. That's good news. The students who have not met the promotion criteria, we actually step up our interventions at this point. Every one of them will have now what's called a RIMP, a Reading Improvement and Monitoring Plan. And it includes research-based interventions that are tailored to their needs. Those interventions occur in the classroom and with classmates, sometimes in small groups, sometimes individually, and sometimes even outside the classroom with tutors or interventionists. But most importantly, where we need to grow as a community is making certain those interventions occur at home. And we've encouraged our parents by providing them tools to help their children read at home. We've put activities on the district's Facebook pages. We send home packets for winter break. We have incentive programs and set up little competitions. In fact, those students that met their goals are going to get that a personal phone call from a celebrity this month. And so we want to encourage our parents to continue to speak with their children's teachers to get additional ideas on how best to support that reading. That is a goal for us, and we want to make certain that we keep that 91% goal not as our ceiling, but as a threshold, and that we step across that and achieve at even higher rates. But of course, because of the new assessment system, students have to have a mastery of more material this year, and a greater percentage of our students have to master that material in order for us to be considered proficient. In some of those special groups, like students that have limited English, we're stepping up our engagement with the families. We actually have an English as a second language community leaders meeting coming up next Wednesday on the 18th. And that meeting is going to be held at the Global Academy in the afternoon. And we're to talk about the different academic opportunities that are available to the students and their families, and working with the leaders of each of those communities to make certain where we're able, we're pushing in to those communities and not if you build it, they will come. We actually take it to them and have a more organic effort to ensure that they achieve their goals. Last night, and maybe some of you attended, Columbus City Schools had their high school fair. And it was offered at the Columbus Afrocentric Early College campus. Big success. More than 900 people came out on that very, very cold night. But what was really exciting is we begin to migrate towards more online applications. We still make the paper available and make it available in multiple languages, but we had almost 500 families use those online tools right there at Afrocentric, and it was brilliantly constructed. Hats off to our school choice supervisor, Tanya Freeman, and the application development team, because they were ready. They did a marvelous orientation in the new auditorium. They had all the computers set up in the commons area, and if you haven't seen the commons area, you need to check it out. We actually have like little food booths, like a cafe. It's pretty cool. We have 2 more fairs coming up. As you know, the middle school fair is on Wednesday, February 8th, 6 to 7:30. It's at the Columbus City Preparatory School for Girls on Bryden Road. And then we have the elementary school fair the next night on the 9th, and that's 6 to 7:30 as well, and that'll be back at Afrocentric. And just so people are reminded, at the school fairs, families get to visit with faculty from each of our schools, as well as representatives from different departments, central enrollment, special education, student activities, VCAP, gifted, I Know I Can, the English Learners Program, our College Credits Plus program, Health and Wellness, Project Mentor, Early Childhood Latchkey, PTA, I could go on. An added bonus for the elementary school fair are guest appearances from storybook characters, which is always a big hit. And then the current Columbus City School families have the opportunity to sign up for their parent portal account and submit their online school choice lottery application too. And we will have interpreters on hand to interpret for our 3 most frequently spoken languages outside of English, Spanish, Somali, and Nepali. And then just a couple other things, those school choice lottery applications for the high school, they're due at the end of the month in February. For the elementary and middle school, they're due the end of the month in March. And then for selective admissions, they really have an effective date at the end of this month. And the selective admissions are for like the performing arts school and the academically talented schools. So requests to return to homeschools, and just one more date there for you, is they're accepted through March 17th. So there are students whose families now elect to go back to their neighborhood school or their home school, their sending school. So that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Are there any questions? Ms. Reyes?
Thank you, Mr. President, Superintendent Good. Thank you very much. I'm very, very excited to see what we're going to be doing in the next couple of months. Just a quick question. Do we have a flyer that announces the, I know that I got an email, but I can't recall if we had a flyer that announces the lottery dates and so forth, so we can put up in nonprofit organizations for our families?
We do, in fact, and I don't think the audience knows your monitor's not working, but we had pictures from those flyers that were up here while I was speaking that showed those dates. So they're behind you. They're just not in front of you tonight. But yes, and we'll make certain we'll reiterate to buildings that those need to be available and going home with students.
Thank you.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes. Thank you so much. And the high school fair was amazing yesterday, and a lot of parents really took advantage. And Dr. Michelle Klein and her team and Ms. Freeman, I mean, they were there in the red tops, black bottoms. They looked like they were better than the Geek Squad, I think. helping just parents sign up for everything. And they even found the link, I think it's called the Bus Bulletin, so parents could sign up to get the notification for transportation as well. And so that was an added bonus. My only question is it possible for us to add another 30 minutes? Only because there are a lot of schools, and parents and our staff are very engaging. And so within an hour and a half, you may only get to speak to 3 or 4 schools, but in high school, we have 21 great options. Plus, we had career tech there, and we had the paramedic team that's going into the EMT program that's going into Marion Franklin, and they captured a lot of people. So 6 is when you're getting off, and so about an hour and a half. I'm wondering if we could go to 8 o'clock, or maybe a 5:30 to 7:30, to give parents a little bit more time to talk to an elementary. I mean, we have way more elementary schools. So being a district of choice, I would just offer that we add a half hour for parents to take advantage of more of the opportunities.
Absolutely. We'll take it into consideration, absolutely.
Okay.
And it may even be that we offered on 2 different nights. That might be another way to extend that period of time. So oftentimes there may be a conflict on a particular night of the week, and if you have it on another night as well, maybe that will do it. But the staff are all back there cringing.
Yeah, that's good. I'm trying not to look at them now, like,
Don't look-
yeah, a little bit
don't look back
longer, do
there.
a couple more. But because our district is huge.
It is huge.
It's huge, and we have a lot of options. We want to give parents as much time as possible to talk. And really, I think our staff, I want to give them kudos and a good job, because sometimes they come to career fair and say, I want to see just this school. But when you see all the things that all the schools have to offer, I just saw a lot of light bulbs go off and say, oh, I didn't know you had the West High School program and AEP and, all these other opportunities. So we definitely want to give them more chances.
Just one more comment, if I may. It's really interesting when we look back 4 years to the fairs we had then, and oftentimes you'll see buildings cycle through periods where they're very proud of what they do, and other times where, maybe they're hopeful people will elect them, but what is really their brand. But we see so much more now from all 21 of our sites that they're really excited about what makes them unique. And I think that's why we're seeing more students elect to continue their education through 12th grade in Columbus City Schools. That's a very positive metric for us, that one we'll keep measuring and see how it's related to those specialties.
One more, and finally, I don't know if you mentioned that the tour opportunities for you to visit the school buildings. I think.
Do you know what that is? Is that what it is, Wednesdays? We'll find out and we'll get it up on the website. Thank you.
Around there are days that schools have designated for you to come in and take a tour and see the school building in action. And so we encourage parents to sign up and register for that and come and see the buildings.
Any other questions for the superintendent on his report? Does that conclude your report, Mr. Superintendent? Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to our treasurer. Mr. Treasurer, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Baker, Vice President Cole, members of the board. Annually, the board must hold a public hearing on the tax budget. This is a rather perfunctory act because the tax budget essentially is our 5-year forecast. In the tax budget, if you looked at the attachment, there are several other funds, the Permanent Improvement Fund and the Bond Retirement Fund, that receive property tax money, so those are included in the tax budget. But primarily, the general fund is listed as our 5-year forecast as you amended it in December. So it was advertised in the newspaper. It's been publicly available. For your information, I don't receive any calls, probably haven't received any calls in the 21 years that I've served as a CFO on the tax budget. So, but this is what you legally have to do. This is our hearing, and after the adoption in the consent agenda, I'll file it with the county auditor as required by law.
Thank you very much, Mr. Treasurer. Any questions from the board on that? Does that conclude your, yes, Board Member Hudson.
Thank you, President Baker. No question. I would just remind folks publicly that all of our finances are posted online, and as Treasurer Bajorek reminded the rating agency folks yesterday, we have about 100 new subscribers to that information every month, and so if anyone has questions, they can also look there as well.
Yes, it's a great site. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer.
That concludes my report to the board.
Outstanding. And Madam Internal Auditor, have you anything to share this evening?
Thank you, President Baker. I don't have a formal report. I just wanted to say congratulations to President Baker and Vice President Cole on being reelected to serve in leadership. Happy New Year to all the board members. And I look forward to working with the administration and the board to have another successful year in Columbus City Schools.
Appreciate that. All right. And at this point, the chair will entertain a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on any items contained within the consent agenda this evening from board members. Mr. Peretti.
Just want to say thank you again for the 3 donations, 14-1 through 14-3 from Castle Nation from Orthopedic One, another donation from Mr. Charles Busby, and a donation from Honda American Manufacturing. Thank you very much.
Board Member Hudson.
Thank you, President Baker. I was wondering if Superintendent Good would talk briefly about the opportunity on the agenda regarding COSI.
Certainly. Thank you, President Baker, Vice President Calder, Board Member Hudson. Yes, so we worked diligently under the former, with the former leader of COSI on a memorandum of understanding or memorandum of agreement, really, on how we would execute programming with the Center of Science and Industry in Columbus. And this is one of the fruits of that labor, where we have a very favorable rate to allow all of our 5th graders to go to COSI and participate in 9 hands-on activities. And those activities are all fully aligned to the new state standards in the area of the science discipline. So last year was our first year for that, and that first cohort also got to inaugurate the new planetarium at COSI. And so this group will have that same experience. We'll make certain we give you the dates. Of course, this will occur over a period of weeks, but it's well worth your time to watch students have those problem-based experiences that they're not paper pencil, so they're learning authentically and they're applying that learning in real science applications. And then, of course, when they go to the planetarium, their minds are just blown away because so few people that live in Columbus that don't have opportunities to spend an evening outside of Columbus don't see the brilliance of the night sky, and you do get that experience in the planetarium. But it was absolutely thrilling last year. We have a number of volunteers that accompany us, and we'll be certain you're made aware of those dates as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you for calling that out, Board Member Hudson. Any other questions or comments from board members on the consent agenda? Hearing none. Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Yes. Mr.
Member's former point, I need to apologize because it seems like I took credit for that, and I shouldn't have. I see Leslie Kelly back there, and her team was really instrumental in orchestrating those arrangements with COSI. I like to always give credit where credit's due. So Leslie, thank you for your efforts. Did I do okay in describing what happens? Very good. And then also as an order of business, President Baker, it's a pleasure this evening to introduce to the board the newly approved Assistant Director of Custodial Services. And I think I've said before, I know I've said in front of all of our custodial staff, but I believe I said to the board before, in one of my former opportunities, I served as Chief of School Improvement for the state of Ohio, meaning I got to work in 285 districts. And so I say with credibility that, in fact, we do have the best kept, cleanest, most orderly facilities in the entire state of Ohio. And we credit that to our phenomenal custodial and maintenance teams. And so to add Anthony Ligon this evening as one of the leaders to that team is a real pleasure. Anthony, would you please stand?
All right. On to announcements. So just a few things I want to remind you of, if you don't mind. The CEO Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Awards Dinner is at the Hyatt Regency. What did I say? I beg your pardon. It's at the Hyatt Regency on January 12th, just as a reminder. And on the 16th is the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast at Greater Columbus Convention Center. Then the Columbus Chamber of Commerce annual meeting is February 8th, to also be held at the Convention Center. Just as a reminder, any other board members like to share any brief announcements or points of pride? Ms. Gibbs?
Oh, also, very happy that the City of Columbus has decided to host the MLK program on Monday at 5 p.m. at East High School. I believe the march will start off at about 4 o'clock p.m. and return to East for a 5:30 program where the keynote speaker will be Bishop Vashti Murphy McKenzie, who is one of the first women designated bishops in the AME Church, and also a very proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Just FYI.
Thank you. FYI. Mr. Brown?
That's a project of the city's Community Relations Commission, and we're happy to partner on that project, as well as on the student speeches that are done in connection with that project, and we've often had some really good students participating.
Very good. Ms. Gibbs, another point?
Oh, yeah. Just one more point to my colleagues on behalf of the Ohio School Board Association and the president, Denise Baba, and Richard Lewis, who's the executive director. You have the certificates thanking you for your service as members of the Columbus Board of Association. You said January is School Board Member Month, and that is an incredible selfless work. And I thank you for all of the time and energy that you dedicate to not just the students in Columbus City Schools, but over 2 million students in public schools, and those that we impact across the state. We transfer and we transport public, private, Catholic, charter students. So we, in fact, touch thousands of students that aren't even enrolled in our schools. And so thank you for all of your diligent work.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Any other items from board members? Hearing none. Nothing else from the administration. The chair will now entertain a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Peretti? He is absent, my bad. Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
And Mr. Brown?
Yes.
That motion carried.
We stand adjourned. Thank you. Have a very good evening.